everyone. My name is Eric. I'm one of the co-founders and directors here at Bravo Migration. The most frequently asked question we have been receiving from clients and followers is when will Australia's borders reopen? As many of you know, in March this year, 2020, the federal government decided to close Australian borders to foreign visitors and international students and anyone with a temporary visa. So the borders have been closed since March. It is November 2020 now. Australian citizens and Australian permanent residents can fly into the country, but to fly out, we need to ask for a special permission. So no restrictions for Australian permanent residents and citizens coming into the country, but we need to ask for permission to leave. Now, if you are the holder of a temporary visa, be it a visitor visa, student visa, sponsorship work visa, or any other type, you are prevented from flying in. The borders are closed for you. There are some exceptions though. If you are a family member of an Australian citizen or an Australian permanent resident, and it has to be immediate family, which means a spouse, a child, or a legal guardian of an Australian citizen or permanent resident. Those temporary visa holders can fly into the country, but not always it's straightforward. Sometimes they also have to apply for a travel exemption. Holders of business investment visa 188, even though technically that visa is temporary, those guys are free to come. They are exemption free. They don't even have to apply for an exemption to travel. And the media is not talking a lot about this, but that's the situation. Everyone else, if wanting to come to Australia, needs to apply for a special permission. And the commissioner of the border force makes the decisions of who comes in or not. And it's very hard to get an exemption to fly into the country right now. So a lot of people ask us, when do you think the borders will reopen? During the federal budget announcement in October last month, the Prime Minister said that the borders will only open next year or when there's a vaccine. And he said late next year. When the borders first closed, everyone was hoping they would be open by July 2020, which didn't happen. A lot of people then started hoping and hearing hints from the government that the borders might reopen in the new year, around January next year. It doesn't look like that will happen if we look into what the Prime Minister said during the budget. So he said late 2021 or when there's a vaccine. There's been some developments on a vaccine from Pfizer, but we don't know if that's going to be out and running anytime soon. Now, a lot of people ask us what we think about what's being said about the borders. We believe that even though the government is saying that borders will only reopen end of next year, it's very hard to keep a country closed for so long in a globalized world such as the world we live in. Plus, visitors, international visitors and tourism and international students are a very large source of income for the country. Just last year, well, 2019, the international student market brought over $39 billion to the country. So the question is, how can we keep going without that stream of revenue? So we're hopeless optimists, and we think that something's going to happen before the end of next year. Some news that also help us maintain the optimism is that there is now a bubble between Australia and New Zealand. So New Zealand citizens can fly into Australia without having to ask for a special permission, and they don't even have to quarantine for 14 days, which anyone, even an Australian citizen or a permanent resident arriving from any other country would have to do. We're also receiving a pilot program of 370 international students flying into South Australia and the Northern Territory. Facilities for welcoming international students and visitors in the Northern Territory for quarantine purposes also are being expanded. So there's signs out there that things might reopen before the end of 2021. If we listen to what the government's saying, they're saying end of 2021 or before there's a vaccine. We believe and hope that it might be sooner rather than later. So that's our 2 cents for you. As we said, it's the most frequently asked question we received here at Bravo Migration. When will the Australian borders reopen? No one really knows, including the government. The government saying end of next year, but we believe there's great chances that it will happen before. Regardless, stay tuned to our social media channels, our videos on our YouTube channel, our Instagram and Facebook page. Sign up for our newsletter and get in touch if you want to create a strategy for coming to Australia, either for studying, for work, or for living permanently. Thanks for watching and see you next time.